Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the January 28, 2025 edition of LinkedIn Tuesday. I am not Patty Bashy. I'm filling in for her because she is in an interview. So wish her well there. Today, we're joined by Ruth Lipsky. She is presenting her relatively new presentation, Back to Basics, Making LinkedIn Work for You. Thank you, Ruth, as always, for being here. She's only presented this one other time to my knowledge. Is that correct?
That is
Perfect.
correct.
All right. And I believe you'll be back next week as well for
I will, and that will be how to drive recruiters to your profile. So they're two completely different aspects of LinkedIn.
gotcha. But obviously, both important, work together, both LinkedIn focused. So if you would put your information in the chat, this is a networking event in addition to LinkedIn training. And let us know where you're from. Go ahead and enter your city. We're getting more of a nationwide reach, and it's fun to see who's here. If you're not on the Career USA mailing list, please send an email to Career USA plus subscribe at groups.io, and you will be added. All right. Please note, as you probably saw, this event is being recorded. You can watch it later at the Career USA YouTube channel that Jeff has been populating for 10, 12 years. And you can see all past recordings there as well. And by participating in this event, you give your consent for your name and picture to appear. By the way, the Zoom chat window does not appear in the recording. During the presentation, we ask that you enter questions in the chat box. I will help monitor the chat box for Ruth, and you can ask questions that way. You can also use the little hand Zoom feature if you want. We'll be monitoring that as well. As a reminder, Jeff Morris founded Career DFW back in 2008, started careerusa.org in 2012. He wrote a book, What I've Learned About Job Search, that you may not know. I have a copy. I've read it. It's great. And he's been a member of the PIT crew since 2017. And he's led the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group since 2007. And again, I'm not Patty, but there is our usual illustrious leader, and we appreciate it, and we hope she nails the job. And these are the four LinkedIn Tuesday training experts that we cycle through every month: Locke, Terry, Ruth, and Kurt. And Career DFW has multiple meetings throughout the week: LinkedIn Tuesdays, PIT Crew on Wednesday, and on Friday, the North Dallas group. And tomorrow is the practice interview team. We meet at Christ United Methodist Church in Plano. Tomorrow is the 5th Wednesday, so we'll be in person every month. The 4th Wednesday is online to service folks outside the DFW area. And then on Friday, we have the North Dallas meeting. And this Friday, our presenter, Elizabeth Lyons, is going to talk about job search trends for 2025, what you need to know to stay ahead. We have two groups, the careerdfw.org and careerusa.org LinkedIn groups. So you can find us there and subscribe, get some news and tips. If you want to see some of the past recordings, go over to YouTube and search for the Career USA channel. Once you're there, click on playlists and then click on view full playlist under LinkedIn, and you'll see all the recordings for the last 17 years. Great resource. Once you click on that, this is the list of recordings that you get. This is old. We have uploaded everything up to last week. Easy way to receive our emails. If you didn't get that subscribe email in the front of the deck, you can scan this QR code now, and it'll start an email for you. there's no approval. You will be automatically added. And just a note, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We do not have full or part-time employees. We survive on donations. So when you get your job, please consider making a donation by scanning here. And now it's back to basics with Ruth Lipsky. She is a career consultant with Lee Hecht Harrison. She specializes in the enhancements that LinkedIn rolls out, particularly the improvements that job seekers can use. Ruth, thanks as always for being here.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, we are going to be talking about LinkedIn basics today, and particularly about how you're going to be able to improve your LinkedIn profile by knowing what recruiters are looking for, knowing how the LinkedIn algorithm is going to be judging your profile and how it sorts. There's a lot of information out there about LinkedIn. And if you've been out there reading it, you probably realize there's a lot of things that are confusing, things that don't make sense, things that contradict other experts. LinkedIn is a lot of things to a lot of different people. And if you've gone through and listened to all four of the LinkedIn hosts that Career USA, Career DFW use, we have different views of what's important on LinkedIn, how things should be used. What we're going to be talking about here is the fact that there's no such thing as a perfect profile, but there are things that you need to have in your profile to make it work. So your goals at this point are being able to identify what your values and your skills are for a company. You need to know how LinkedIn's search engine uh, is working and how to optimize your profile. You need to take into account that a human being is eventually going to be reading your profile and it needs to be readable. And if you can do all that, then you've got an authentic and optimized profile, and that's what your goal is going to be. So, what we'll be talking about today, setting up your profile, making sure you've got a strong headline. We'll talk about that. Hashtag open to work. We'll talk in more detail about the About section of LinkedIn because it is the biggest area and it's probably one of the few areas that gets read consistently by recruiters, by people who come onto your profile. We'll talk about how to optimize your experience section and some of the changes that have come in the skills section. So, starting out, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you go to www.linkedin.com. You can either use that join now or this join now down here to set up your profile. If you do have a profile, you need to be able to go to the settings and privacy area and make sure that you've got a backup for your email, that you've turned off the notifications, and take a look at some of the other settings. So let's take a look at how some of that works right now. When you're on your profile up here under the Me icon, going into settings and privacy, your account preferences, sign-in security, visibility is going to be the big one. You don't want to be sharing any of your job changes, education changes, work anniversaries in your profile. Turn that off. You're going to be updating these areas, and sometimes it looks as if you've accepted a job and you haven't. So being able to turn all of the notifications off where LinkedIn is going to be pushing out what you've done to the people in your network. Nope, turn that off. Don't need that. The other thing that you're going to want to do is LinkedIn assigns you a URL. And normally it's going to be first name dash, last name dash, and then a bunch of random letters and numbers to separate your profile from someone else who might have the exact same profile. So going into the public profile and URL, edit that, change it using the little blue. If you can't use your first last name as your URL, you can put in a middle initial, or you can put a dash and then your industry or a title that you feel is going to be good for your career, something to distinguish you. While you're here, Make sure that you look at your visibility. Everything should be in the green. Everything that LinkedIn has should be visible to a recruiter, a hiring manager, or someone who's trying to network with you. We've seen in the past that sometimes some of these get turned off, and that's going to affect the visibility that you have. As you're also setting up your profile, you should take care of the verification. Verification is a newer type of activity on LinkedIn, and it's trying to identify who's a real person versus an artificial intelligence profile, a scammer who's not really associated with the company they say they are. If you don't have a verification, there are three different verifications you can have. One is that your workplace identifies who you are. The other is that the government can identify who you are based on a government issued ID. So if you're in the United States, it would be a driver's license or it would be a passport. The third type of identification is for a university. So if you're still in school, if you are teaching, the university is able to identify who you are. The workplace and the education can be done online, but the government ID has to be done on your phone. It looks as if you could complete this identity on the phone, on a workstation. You can't. It just hangs up on you. So use the phone for this one.
Hey,
So
Ruth,
other,
if you don't
mhm.
have those three, how do you verify yourself?
Since you are possibly unemployed right now, you don't have a company
Right,
that can verify. If you're not going
right,
to school, then that's not available to you. So
right.
having a driver's license or a passport or something that could
No,
act as an ID would be
okay,
okay.
all right. So Texas driver's license is good. Thanks.
Driver's license is fine. Okay, so we've got through the settings of privacy, change the visibility so you don't spam everybody in your network every time you update something. We changed your URL. And we talked about the verification. If you don't have a verification, you probably have this message on your profile page saying that verified members are getting more profile views because recruiters are trying to find the people who are real people. Profile picture. Your headshot should not contain more than one person, nor should it contain your pet. You should be looking at the camera because you're looking for that trustworthy, I'm good to work with. Smiling would be nice, but it's not a requirement. If you don't want to smile, you don't need to. You just need to look fairly welcoming. Don't tilt your head on a headshot. Women tend to do this more than others because a tilted head in a headshot at one point was considered a beauty shot. It's not. In the business world, it's a sign of a lack of dominance and that you're tilting your head to display your jugular vein to people who are more alpha than you are. So straight up and down on your head. What you're wearing should reflect what type of job you're looking for. If you are in a environment where suit and tie is the norm, go ahead and wear a suit and tie. If not, dress to whatever is appropriate for the type of role that you want. You've got a background picture also, and it's the large area that's at the very top of your profile page, large rectangle. You can use the camera icon on the upper right-hand side of this feature and add in a branded picture. It would be an industry, it would be a occupation, but it needs to be something other than a happy place. Don't use any of the LinkedIn suggested backgrounds. They're not unique enough, they are overused, and they generally aren't giving you that branded capability. And if you need suggestions, you can go to a place like um, Google Images, and Google Images would be able to provide you with some options there. And when you're on Google Images, just type in LinkedIn background, and you have all kinds of rectangular pictures. Google is going to give you some filters, as to what you're going to be looking for. But if you just wanted to say LinkedIn background, I'm in IT. Here are all kinds of rectangular pictures that have a theme associated with IT, and Google is also going to give you different filters associated with that. Right click on the picture you like, save image as, and that drops it into the picture folder, which is the only place that LinkedIn can find it. Some of these look really good in these small tiles, but you blow them up into your background and look fuzzy. Don't do fuzzy. So find something in your background that is going to indicate more closely who you are and what you're going to be doing for the future. Your headline
Before
area.
you go on,
Mhm.
Penn would like to know if it's a good idea to use a word cloud in your image.
You can use a word cloud, or you could use there's three types of background pictures, let's say. One of them is going to be a branded picture, which I think is a very effective way to do it. You could do a word cloud as long as the words that are visible are the ones that you think are the skills that you contain, and those skills are repeated in your about section and in your skill section. Your other option for a background is a quote. So if you had a quote that you live by, a quote that you feel is a personal way of identifying your way of life, you can put a quote in the background. So those you can have a branded picture, you can have a quote or word cloud, or you can have a happy place. In my case, I've got a happy place because it snowed in Dallas the other day and I felt cold, and this is my picture for the moment.
Nice.
But
Julie also wanted to know how you got to that section with the green radio buttons on the right. I think you were in the profile, and that were the switches about what to share. Could you show that again real quick?
all right, going into the me icon up here, was it in the settings and privacy?
I
And
believe
yeah,
it was where you share what visibility, I believe it was.
When you're editing your public URL.
okay. Let's go back to that one. On your profile page on the right-hand side, there's a public profile and URL. Go ahead and click the edit. If you need to change your URL, do so, but also take a look and make sure that your public, that you are visible
There it is.
and everything is in the green. So that was coming up that off of this edit feature right here. And please do check that, because we've seen people who have had amazing profiles and they're not getting any good analytics where people aren't being found. And it's because some of these were turned off, or possibly all of them. So good point. Thank you for asking that one. Okay. The headline area is the only opportunity you have to talk to a recruiter. It is the most important part of your profile because quite often it's the only thing that people are going to read. They're not going to bother to scroll down if they haven't seen something interesting or compelling in your headline area. It's a major factor. LinkedIn uses these words as having a higher point value than any other part of your LinkedIn profile. And it's a way of talking directly to a recruiter, because when a recruiter is doing a search and they're looking for a project manager with these three skills and maybe a geographic location, the only thing that LinkedIn gives them back is your headshot, your headline, and the last two titles that you've held in your career. So the recruiter has to make a decision whether to look more closely at you based on what you're saying in your headline. So make it important. It is only 220 characters deep, so you don't have a heck of a lot of room for it, but use it to put in a title or two, because the title in that top area is going to be important. But then talk about what's your personal brand, what's your expertise, what's your value proposition. And those normally show up. Oh, and don't use special characters or emojis anywhere on your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is famous for saying that they do not support formatting. And if you've ever tried to type anything directly into the About section, you notice that you can't use bold, you can't use indentations, you can't use any type of separators. You're just typing, and that's all that LinkedIn is willing to accept. LinkedIn does not want to take the responsibility of translating your special character or emoji across different devices, different sizes, different brands. So if you put an emoji in your headline, in your About section, in your experience, LinkedIn could change that emoji into whatever it feels like moving, and it could be something that is not appropriate for a LinkedIn profile. So special characters, emojis, stay away from them. Use your keyboard only.
And if I
So that
can plug AI in here, if you need help starting a headline, go to ChatGPT or your favorite AI engine and say, please give me a headline of no more than 220 characters based on my resume. And it'll give you something to start with.
it can, and if you say, give me a headline that is unique and compelling and is of interest to a recruiter looking for a blank title in a blank industry, that gives you even better results.
Love it.
Okay. Here you go is in the template. You can put a title or two and then just list your skills. Separate things with a pipe, the straight up and down character that's right above your enter key. Or you can have a title or two and then accomplishing X through Y. Providing information about what skills you use in order to accomplish something is going to be the message to the recruiter saying, I can do this for your company too. Or putting in a title or two, using X to increase or decrease Y. Let's take a look at how that looks in real life. If you are someone like a full stack application developer, what the recruiter wants to know is what languages you can use. What are the best skills you have in order to be a reasonable person for that job? So having skill is perfect. If you are someone like a project
Ruth,
manager,
another question. Somebody heard that the pipe symbol is sometimes read as either or and shouldn't be used. What's your opinion on that?
that is, it normally stands for and. So yes, it is important on a LinkedIn profile because LinkedIn uses that as a separator to identify your skills.
Okay, so you're good
You,
with the pipe.
I'm good with a pipe. I am not good with a pipe on a resume because some applicant tracking systems treat it as an end of document.
Oh,
Because if you did
okay.
coding in the old days, I mean, really old days, and some of these application tracking systems are pretty old, that pipe is a designation for end of document and it doesn't read your full resume.
All
But on
right. So yes on
LinkedIn,
LinkedIn, no on resume.
that would be the way I would do it.
Okay,
So
thank you.
on your resume, what would you use instead of the pipe?
If you didn't have a pipe, you could use a slash. I would not use a comma because too often you need a comma in order to
Uh-huh.
identify your skill, but a slash
Okay.
could be used also.
Like
Could you
It would be a forward slash,
okay,
so
forward
it
slash.
so it's tilting in the direction of the right side.
Okay.
could you use bullet points as well for the resume?
For bullet points, you definitely can. Uh, commas you can use on resumes, commas you cannot use in LinkedIn.
So you can use bullets to separate like the titles, like how you have it here.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So if you have a job that is a very broad type of job, putting in your title and then talking about what it is you did that was the identifier on your career, expert and agile and scrum methodologies, financial analyst, enhancing business decisions. Business analyst, once again, could be a lot of different things, a lot of different types of responsibilities. Put those in. Data scientist, customer experience manager, having numbers quite often is going to be a good way of getting to the attention of the recruiter. And the higher you are in an organization, the more this needs to be a philosophy rather than a task. So, VP of marketing, creating value for business through effective marketing strategies. Director of customer relations, helping the world become more customer centric. You could put leadership, communication. Those are words that don't mean as much because they're overused and are used at many different levels of an organization. Find the way to identify what you do within 200 characters. Location is still important. LinkedIn allows you to put in your postal code, and then it's going to give you two choices. You can have your city, or you can have the nearest metroplex. The metropolitan area always comes up higher in a search, and we don't know why, but it's been identified several times as a differentiator. So if you have a city right now, change it to a metropolitan area. It's generally easier for recruiters who are out of your area to be able to identify where exactly you are in the state, and that's helpful too. Country is sometimes used in location in order to indicate that you're willing to move into a different location, willing to relocate generally within the United States if you have United States there. Recruiters aren't real wild about that because they want to know what time zone you're in so they know when they can call you or just where in general you are. So if you're using United States to say open to relocation, put that information in your about section in the bottom line and put the geographic area or the area you want to move to instead. Industry. LinkedIn has 149 industries. They are moving into the NAICS model that has 1,170 industries. So at this point, the industry feature is locked down. You can't change it. When their rollout is complete, you'll be able to change the industry. It is not as high in the preference of a recruiter. Generally, they'll look at your resume in order to find out what industries you've worked in. But some people like to change the industry if they know that there is a very specific industry that they want to be moving into. Not available at this time, but soon. Let's talk about that hashtag open to work. It's on the top portion of your profile, and it allows you to indicate what kind of job titles. You can have up to 5. And the job titles have to be ones that LinkedIn has already standardized. And LinkedIn has 6,000 of them. So you're generally going to be able to find job titles that say what level, what department, what type of work you do. Recruiters who are using the LinkedIn software or just LinkedIn in order to find people are also using the standardized titles. They're not using their internal titles in order to do a search. So it's generally a bit better to use these same titles in your headline. So if your title at your last company was Chief of Disruption, nobody outside your company is really going to understand what Chief of Disruption is. Translate that into a job title that is an industry standard. Location types, on-site, hybrid, or remote. Locations, if you are only on-site. Locations, if you are remote, that can be a country, or it can be as many different locations as you want. The hashtag open to work is at the bottom so that you can tell recruiters that are using the LinkedIn recruiter software that you are looking for a new job, or you can tell all recruiters who are using LinkedIn to find people, and that will add a banner to your headshot. Only about half of the recruiters on LinkedIn are using the LinkedIn recruiter software. So if you have it for recruiters only, you're missing about half of the recruiters who are actually looking for somebody in order to bring into their organization. So let's take a look at what happens at that point. Hashtag desperate. The negatives that generally tend to be associated with having that hashtag open to work is that feeling that this person must be desperate or they wouldn't be telling anybody. And there could be some reputation damage because if you were in the recruiting or in the hiring field 20 years ago, the only people who were laid off were the people who were the poor performers. That changed about 20 years ago with mergers and acquisitions, and then even more so during the pandemic, where companies resized to fit the needs of the customer, and people who are enormously talented got laid off because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, reputation damage, kind of an old school idea. On the positive side, you've got a lot more increased visibility and you'll have 40% more recruiter outreaches and 20% more messages coming to you if you have that hashtag open to work. So it works in order to showcase your interest and recruiters respond to that. It also gives you more networking opportunities for people who may not have known that you are looking for a new job. Now they see that it's there. The hashtag open to work is the #1 filter that recruiters use. They want to put in their title, their skills, the geographic area, whatever they think is the core set of what they're looking for. But after that, they want to know, are you open to work or am I going to have to talk you out of a job that you were interested in and then have to give you time to finish up your projects and turn over your activities and train somebody new? It's easier to find a job now when you're unemployed than when you're employed. And the attitudes on this hashtag open to work are shifting. So I asked ChatGPT, which is my go-to AI because it was free at the time I signed up, to look at 500 articles that were written about the hashtag open to work in the last 2 years, 2023, 2024. They had to be written by recruiters or they had to be written by LinkedIn experts. And the question for ChatGPT was, in these 500 articles, what percent supported using the public hashtag open to work and what didn't? And what the result was is that 70% recommended using it, 30% advised against it. When I changed the dates, so it was 2021 and 2022, the results were only 60% recommended it and 40% advised against it. It's becoming more of the norm in the world of I'm looking for a job to put that out there. But the thing to remember is that there's some people who will always, always, always think this is a sign of desperation and pass you by. What you do with this feature is up to you. If you feel that it does indicate a reputation damage, if it does represent some that you are desperate and you don't want to show that, then don't use it. But if you do want to use it, there could be some recruiters who do pass you by because of it, but for the most part, most of them are going to welcome it. And you have the added advantage of having more contact with recruiters.
I have a quick
So,
question.
mhm.
Quick question. When you said the hashtag open to work, is that hashtag separate from the banner itself? Because I heard someone say that you put also like hashtag O&O, so I just wanted to check with you about that.
Hashtag O&O used to be the feature that was recommended because LinkedIn didn't have a hashtag open to work. So quite often within the body of the about section or in the headline, people would put the hashtag O&O to show that that they were looking for a job. It's not needed anymore. It takes up space that's better used elsewhere.
So you don't need to put either hashtag O&O or hashtag open to work. That's just taken you're saying that the banner takes the place of that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're using the banner, you don't need to indicate in the headline, the about section, or any place else that you're open to work. It's already part of your profile, and it's easier to find that by a recruiter than a recruiter having to look for that hashtag O&O like they used to have to. So make it visible and make it capable of being found by the LinkedIn algorithm. Analytics are an important part of your profile. And if you're not watching those consistently, you probably should. The analytics are only available to you unless you're sharing your screen with somebody else. But it tells you how many people have looked at your profile. If you're posting anything, how many people have looked at that, and how many search appearances you're coming up in. You want these numbers to be increasing regularly. And the more active you are on LinkedIn, the more LinkedIn is going to reward you by pushing people toward your profile because they feel that you are active, you're engaged, and you want to be seen. So watching these is the only way you can really tell how effective your profile is. There's no such thing as a best number for anyone because I'm not looking for a job, but these are the numbers that I have. But being able to see that they're going in a direction that is generally upward is going to mean that you're being found, you'll be found by recruiters more. So within that, always keep an eye on who's looking at your profile itself, how you're coming up in search appearances. Make sure they're on an upward trend. The About section, yeah. You're going to talk about your successes. You're going to talk about your experiences. You're going to use the keywords you need to your next job. And if you don't know what keywords you need for your next job, go out and take a look at 5 jobs you do like. Find the keywords that are common to all of them. Make sure you're using those because recruiters change how they say things, and the English language has an immense number of skills and words associated with competency. Find the ones that the recruiters are using. The first 4 lines of your About section have to be the attention grabber. Because if a recruiter is aiming to look at 100 different profiles today in order to identify the 10 people that that recruiter wants to talk to, you better have a pretty good first 4 lines, which is the part above the area that's hidden. You have to hit see more. Make sure that you have enough information there that they want to see more. And the paragraphs for readability, no more than 4 lines deep. A paragraph on a computer screen that is 5 lines deep becomes a wall of words and people don't read it. It's a little too dense and they particularly lose the words and the keywords that are in the middle of that About section or about that paragraph. So make sure everything is spread out quite a bit there. And here's what you're going to do. You want that hook and something that is very basic. My title, with X years of experience in this field, I help companies do boom. Whatever your value statement is, it can be a repeat of what you had in your headline, and you could expand on what you have in your headline. But being able to start off with something that tells the recruiter what you do and how well you do it and what your superpower is a great way to get their attention. Then you need to discuss the current role, your current skills, use the skills and the keywords that are important for your next job. Talk about the achievements you've had using numbers or metrics, although those non-quantifiable results can be good too. Now, when we're talking about putting achievements in the About section, you can take information from the experience section, like your experience section on your resume is experience section on your LinkedIn profile, move them up into the About section to highlight that you've got this as a skill. You can repeat things, and LinkedIn rewards you for repeating skills. The more times you say you have a skill, the higher level of proficiency LinkedIn feels that you have. So putting a skill in your headline, in your About section, in your experience section, and in your skill section gives you the ability to tell LinkedIn that you are truly highly proficient in this particular skill. So repeating statements and paragraphs from one part of your profile and putting them in another part of your profile is good. Highlight the value that you bring, not just that you did something, but the value, either a technical value by increasing productivity, ensuring quality. Those are going to be things that recruiters are going to assume that you can do for their company too. You can also mention something about your personality or about your interests. Don't spend an awful lot of time on that. One sentence at the end of the about section to show who you are, a little bit more about what you do, can be enough of a attention grabber. But let's talk about those non-quantifiable accomplishments because those are important. David, did you have a question?
Don't,
Ruth,
Okay.
I got one.
Okay.
I think it was 2 or 3 slides ago about making posts and things like that. Is commenting, making a post, or writing an article increase the analytics more?
Great one. Let's go back onto LinkedIn and take a look at that. When you're on the home area, you've got the opportunity. LinkedIn is pushing information to you that it thinks you're interested in, that they think is going to be beneficial to you. If you like, you get no extra boost in your profile. That is so Facebook. Don't just like or use any of these features. If you comment, though, your comment does increase your value. And as long as the comment that you have is 12 or more words, you get maximum points for that.
Regardless
So
of the size of the words, just 12 words?
regardless of the 12 words is 12 words. So
Okay.
on comment, there's a difference between saying thank you for sharing, which is a comment, and you'll get points for that to boost your score on LinkedIn. But if you say, thanks for posting this, I ran into this situation in my previous role. I wish I had known this then. Thank you. That gives you a lot more because now with 12 words, you've generated a conversation. You're talking more, and LinkedIn is all about networking and sharing information. So being able to have 12 words minimum on a comment is going to be helpful.
Good to know. What about reposting and sharing? Is that worth anything?
When you repost and share, and let's see. All right. So here's something that Denise sent out. And she talked about companies that were offering fully remote jobs. And we know that fully remote jobs are only about 8% of the jobs that are being posted on LinkedIn. And 40% of the applications are going to those 8% of the jobs. People want fully remote jobs, but there aren't many out there these days. So when she posted this and said these companies are hiring for fully remote, I reposted it, put in my own comments there. That gave me a boost. It's not my original information, but it gave me a lot more boost to my score than a comment would.
Okay.
Now, your other option is that you can find an article on another site, and you feel that that is worthy of being shared with your network, and you can bring that in by most other sites do have a LinkedIn notation. If you wanted to bring that in, put it in as a comment on why you're posting it. That gives you even more points than reposting. So far, a comment gives you some boost. Reposting gives you a better boost. Finding an article and bringing it in gives you even more of a boost. And starting your own post gives you the maximum. So LinkedIn, the more effort you have to put into a conversation, the more LinkedIn is going to reward you.
Oh, question
And
here.
does the social selling index, you had a slide where you had the 3 statistics. Are those all related to your SSI score, or is that completely different?
That's completely different. SSI was originally created for anybody in sales. because it really measures the number of contacts you've made. It doesn't talk about the quality of them or how they've interacted with you. I don't use that as a measure of success because it's more a measure of how active was I, not necessarily did this garner any results. Some people love it and keep track of it, and I think Terry Sullivan talks quite a bit about him in his LinkedIn presentation. I'm not a fan of it. So
Okay.
use it however you want. But that's why we've got 4 people talking about LinkedIn.
True.
I got a quick question.
Mhm.
With job titles, I guess it's a maybe a two-part question. So, is there a minimum, or yeah, a minimum amount of job titles that you should list? So, for example, for like customer service, right? If you want to go back into customer service, should you put like customer service, customer representative, and then something else, or do you think like those 2 titles are sufficient?
No, as a matter of fact, that's coming up in one of these future slides, but the title that your company gave you is important and you have to put that down. But you can also say, here is another way of looking at that title. So LHH calls me a career consultant, but most other companies call this a career coach. I'm putting both in my title field. I'm only putting it once up here, but if I was looking for another job, I would put both of them up here in hopes of getting more hits, regardless of which one. So having more than one title so that you're translating your title to a different industry or a different type of company is important. The other thing that's important is, here's the last job that I had. It was a senior manager of training and development, but my whole team was working to move classroom instruction into a virtual environment. And the titles that I could take as my next role would be instructional designer or e-learning developer, because that's where I spent all of my time. So putting in, here's the title I was given, but then in parentheses, put in, these are the titles that more accurately reflect the type of work that I was expected to do, is a positive thing here too.
Okay. Oh, but so you had like 2 in your example, you had 2, but if you increased it to, because I think you said there's 225 characters, if you put like 3 or 4, my question, I guess, is can you overdo it by putting too many titles?
Nope, nope. Put in as many as you want, as many as it will fit. As long as
Yeah.
you're able to talk in an interview as to what the difference was and why you put in that many.
And can they be like, I guess, separate industry? So like if I did customer service, but I also did facilitation, could I include both of them, or should I just pick one?
Nope. Put in, if you're looking for facilitation roles, then yes, put that in. The only titles that you should have other than your company title would be the ones that you're looking for your next job. So if you wanted to put in facilitator or any other type of title that matches into the type of role you're looking for next, you can do that.
I mean, like, could you like mix and match? So if I'm looking for customer service roles, but I'm also looking for facilitators, would that confuse the system, or?
This says that you've actually done both of those roles. Up here, it says I'm looking for both of those roles, and it could be because I've done that before. So
Okay.
having multiple titles up here can absolutely say that you've got a broad enough background that you can find that you're willing to look for 2 or 3 different jobs. I wouldn't go more than 3 jobs because that tends to give people the idea that you're spread too thin.
Right.
Okay, let's take a look at the non-quantifiable accomplishments, because we talk a lot about have metrics in your uh, in your sentences, but there are a lot of ways that you can say that you contributed to a company without having numbers. And talking about what you did, maybe how you did it, but giving a result that is non-quantifiable, doesn't have numbers associated with it, that's still a good thing to be able to do. So just to make sure, numbers speak a lot. They show the size, the complexity, what your scope was in your role. But if you have a non-quantifiable job, then it's okay to put that down. So let's take a look at some of the about sections and what they would look like. Most of the time, a person is going to be looking for a similar job to what they had before. And here's what that might look like. Here's the about section of somebody who's looking for same job. Accountant, 4 years experience, short, a lot of keywords. Willing to look for something similar. That's all you need. LinkedIn may have 2,600 characters, which is a massive amount of space, but you don't need to use all of it. So if you're looking for the same job, it might be just this short and sweet. Now, if you're looking for the same job, you can also say, there are 3 key skills that I needed in order to be successful in my job. Here are the 3 skills. Here's how I use them. And here are some accomplishments associated with how I did my job. So this adds a little bit more information where somebody can understand more completely how that job is going to be done because of the experience that they're bringing up here. Now, if you're looking for the same job and you're an executive level, quite often the executive level has a non-compete and a non-disclosure associated with them, and you're not going to be able to put as many numbers in here. But being able to have an opening statement of where your strengths are, putting down 3 and for an executive or an executive level position, you're going to be looking for complex projects and strategic priorities. You're not going to have your key strength as leadership and communication. It's got to be something bigger than that. And then putting in her case, 3 to 5 stories about what was done in these particular areas and a statement of when that was done. Key strengths, 3 to 5. If you have less than 3, then you're not well-rounded. If you have more than 5, you've diluted down the impact of what you've got. Impactful experience, same thing. Either 3 stories or 4 stories or 5, but nothing else other than 3, 4, or 5 for the same reasons.
Oh, quick question. So with, I know that LinkedIn, that it's a, once you put that part, that's static. But when you're applying for like different roles, first of all, like I was going to ask, can you use um that same part when in your summary at the top in your actual resume, physical resume, and the second part, I guess, would be, would you then change it based on the different jobs that you're applying for?
The summary section of your resume quite often is an opening paragraph that highlights the skills that you think are important for success in the job that you're just applying for. You can certainly put that summary section from your resume into your LinkedIn About section, but you probably need to expand it a bit more because LinkedIn gives you the opportunity to do that. Did that answer part of the question?
What I meant, like the other way around. So like if if you're using the about section in your summary, can you, like, I guess, can you use the about section from your in the summary and then in the resume, and then also, if you're doing that, do you modify the summary section based on the role that you're looking for?
Ah, there you go. Okay, so putting this information into your resume, you can, the resume is normally a particular job at a particular company, and you may not need all of this. You can put
Mhm.
this in as to your master resume and then take out the parts that you don't need when you're applying for a job. So if under impactful experience, there's not going to be any merger and acquisition work, take this part off. A lot of times it's easier to delete stuff rather than trying to rewrite in order to fit a job posting. But your resume, normally 2.5 pages is about the max. Nobody's going to read anything more than the first page. So make sure that whatever's on the first page, whether it be the information similar to your about section or the key skills or your most recent job, are going to be the key part there. That get us
Okay.
closer to your question?
Yeah, yeah, and then I guess, and then you would then you can also change the summary section a bit based on like what the role requires, I guess.
There you go. Exactly.
All right.
And this next one might help. So far, we've been looking at about sections that deal with, I'm looking for the same job. Here's somebody's profile where they're looking for 3 different jobs. Because of the experience, because of the background that she had, she could be an enterprise agile coach, a product owner, or a scrum master. And she has experiences that she brought up from the experience section of her profile to complement the type of role that she's looking at. So if you're looking for more than one job and it's not just a slightly different job title, but they're really different jobs, you can use a lot more space on your LinkedIn About section, but you're able to identify the things that make you hireable for that type of role. Okay. Next type of about section is don't want to do that old job anymore. I want to change careers completely. And in this case, your opening paragraph is going to be, here's what I did, here's why I don't want to do that anymore. And it's not because I wasn't good at it. There's got to be a reason in here. I'm excited to begin looking for opportunities to join the technology and SaaS world. And here are the reasons why I have the transferable skills to be able to do that. So if you're looking to have a change from did that well, did it for a number of years, now during this moment, I decided I wanted to do something different, that's a possibility. Here's another example of it. I had a 5-year career, wants to pivot a career, and gives a reason for it. Talks about the experience in the next couple paragraphs, about transferable skills, why what he has done in the past is going to make him better for the future careers, and do it that way. So your about section can change quite a bit based on what you want to do and how you want to lay things out. And hopefully that covered everybody's information. Experience, we said that the end date is probably the only part of experience that we need to be talking about. You have to cut off the fact that you are no longer working for that company. It's generally at about the 2-month part, but you can also add an additional job explanation on why you're no longer employed. And LinkedIn allows us to add a career break by saying, here are the things that I'm doing now that I am not working. And it could be because you were forced to take a leave of absence, or that you are doing something that is going to prepare you for a different role, or that you just have a career transition going on. So the career break is something that LinkedIn has added for you. The problem with a career break is that it indicates that you do not have a job right now. And LinkedIn wants you to have a current job. The way that you can create a current job is that you can create a new job in your experience section, put down whatever set of titles you're looking for. You have to have a company name, so you can say self-employed or looking for my next opportunity, but then putting into the description area, here are the things that I'm looking for. Here are the skills that I have. And being able to do this is going to give you that placement of I am continuing to work here, when you're in this add profile section, under this core area, you can add the career break. That's where that is. So being able to say, here are the things that could be the reason why I'm not working right now. But the fact is, LinkedIn's still going to say, you're not working. Better to add it in your experience section, to add in a new position and be able to indicate what role you're looking for and add more keywords. We just talked about adding more titles to experience because the title that you were given by the company might not reflect what you were actually doing or might not be the actual title that's used outside the company. Education, include whatever classes or courses. Don't put dates on college because that sometimes is used to figure out how old you are, and ageism does exist. It's not supposed to, it's against the law, but it does still exist. Skills, LinkedIn has identified 3,600 skills. It now allows you to add 100 of them to your skill section. Only list the ones that you need for your current and your next job. Take out the ones that you hope you never have to do again. If you are in a managerial role, you need to have both technical and managerial skills in this section. And LinkedIn, when they are doing a search, can only recognize a skill that has an endorsement. So you may add 100 skills to your skill section, but unless somebody endorses you to verify that that is indeed a skill that you have, LinkedIn is going to see that you have none. The human eye will be able to read all of those skills, but the LinkedIn algorithm, which is normally the first step in a recruiter finding you, is not going to be able to see it unless there is an endorsement. And the more endorsements you have, the higher value LinkedIn is going to assume your competency to be. But this isn't as important as that second one. Send notes out to your network. Only a first degree connection can endorse you. I am strengthening my LinkedIn profile in anticipation of a new career. Would you mind endorsing me for, and then give them maybe 5 skills that you think are important. You don't want them to endorse skills that you don't think are important for your job search. Now, the skill order can be changed so that you can reorder them. And if you haven't done this before, LinkedIn allows you on your skill section to have the top 2 skills that you think you have. But when you're taking a look at all 55 skills, in the upper right-hand corner, you've got 3 dots, and you can reorder your skills by moving the parallel lines up and down to place them in the order you want. Being able to put all of these skills in the order that you think are important to your next job is going to be important. The first 2 being the ones that are going to appear on your home page of your profile, and then the ones after that that seem to be reasonable assumptions of skills that you should have.
Hey Ruth, I got a question on that. When
Uh-huh.
I take a course like on LinkedIn Learning, I noticed that changes, it'll move your skills around. Is there any way to get it just to stay that way? Like if one of my top skills is strategy, say, but I take a course on LinkedIn Learning, it tends to move that down and put the latest course up there.
That would probably be a lot in the licenses and certifications too. Are you seeing that those are changing when you add in a
Yeah,
class?
sometimes changes up and down and you have to go back in and have to reorder them.
It's a pain, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, afraid that's probably not something that can be adjusted. You're going to have to do that by hand each time. But
Yeah,
good
when
for
you
you
add a
We've
for
new
got
skill,
some
noticing
it
it.
puts it at the
questions.
top. It puts it at the
Okay.
top when you add a new skill.
Yeah, new skills go at the top.
Exactly. I need to ask a question about SSI, please, real quick. You said that's not important. I was told that's looking at that score and making sure it's a certain level is not essential as far as your visibility on LinkedIn.
On the SSI
Yes.
Or which? Okay. Uh, LinkedIn algorithm does not use the SSI. It
Oh,
is,
okay.
it is not in the way that you might see it on that SSI page. It's used to measure how active you are on LinkedIn. And the more active you are, the more network connections you're asking for, the more jobs you're looking for, all of the other things that are on LinkedIn, all of that counts. But the
Right.
SSI score is not necessarily the way to determine if it's successful. Your analytics are going to be a better measure of that.
Okay, okay. I was trying to understand what shows me, what gives me the best KPI, so to speak, of measurement of my algorithm activity. I'm trying to make sure that I get the maximum, and I know about the posting, reposting, and all of that. And I asked because my SSI, I've been working on it, it had elevated to 78. Um, and then all of a sudden it dropped to 48, and my activity has just been doing nothing and going up, and so I'm like, what the heck happened here? So I was
Tracy,
concerned about that.
Tracy, mine did the same thing. I was
Did it? I
in
sent a
the,
note to them just before
yeah,
joining this meeting because
and
I thought,
that's why I put the link. If you look in the chat window, I put a message in there in regards to the algorithms of how the SSI score is determined. And it says it changes it over time. So while the rules of the game are, one way this month, maybe next month they changed the rules, but mine went from the mid-70s down to 44 as well overnight.
Mine did the
crazy, right?
exact
Not even
same thing
overnight.
last week as well.
Yep.
I was
Okay.
on it, scoring great, so I checked it, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on here?
Thank you.
So,
I'm glad I raised this point because I thought
yeah.
it was Sunday afternoon. I was checking right before the football game, 78. End of the games, checked it before going to bed, 48. It happened in a matter of hours, and I didn't know
Yeah, and I'm
what
like,
What it
what
what it
changed?
does what it does is it gives it different weighting. So while today it may give you a higher score for one thing, one activity that you're
Yeah,
doing,
yeah,
then next month it'll change it
yeah.
to a different weight, and that's why we're
Okay,
seeing a difference in
okay.
our scores.
Gotcha. Because I was concerned too because it
Thank
hasn't
you.
changed. I even went further in and said, okay, let me do more. It has not budged from 48 since Sunday evening. And so, okay, as long as I know that's not affecting my algorithm, correct, Ruth? I mean, I'm being seen still, then I'm
You're still
okay.
being seen, but looking at your analytics is probably a better, more consistent view. Remember that the SSI page has not had any updates in the last 8 years.
Ah,
So they're not spending as much time on it. It can be a good indicator of how active you are, but your analytics probably give you better information because LinkedIn is putting more effort into that part.
okay, thank you. And thank you, Lori and Penn. I appreciate the
How do you
feedback.
even
Yeah,
check,
Makes me
how
feel a
do you
lot
even
better,
check SSI?
seriously.
Like, where do you check SSI from?
There's a
it's part of
link.
the.
I put it in the chat.
Okay, in the chat has
As
some.
long as you're logged into your account, if you click on that URL, it'll tell you your SSI.
Okay.
And Ruth, we had a question from Mark. How many endorsements help your algorithm? And we might want to separate skill endorsements from a written endorsement.
A written endorsement is a recommendation, and that is a huge plus. Whether you write a recommendation or whether you receive a recommendation, that is a huge boost to your score
Oh,
because it takes a
writing
lot of
one is
effort
a
to do
boost?
that. Writing one because it takes effort to do that. So whether you write it or receive it, those people really come up high on the searches.
And how
Um,
many do you recommend we have as a minimum?
as you're doing a job search, you should probably try and write a recommendation or receive a recommendation every other week. And if you know other people who have been laid off, you can send a note to them saying, I enjoyed the time that we worked together. I'd like to write a recommendation for your LinkedIn. What skills or activities would you like me to mention? And that way you make sure that you're writing something that's appropriate and useful for them.
Gotcha.
The
Okay.
endorsements, one endorsement gets you noticed. If you can get up to 5, that seems to be the next threshold. But after that, there's a real gap or a lot of discussion as to how did they deal with it after that first one. So the first one, if you just want to get one for your key ones, that's probably the first step. getting additional ones up to 5. After 5, I'm not sure I'd put too much more time in it. There are other areas of LinkedIn you can be looking at.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
For, yeah. That for previous, I mean, where do you get the which recommendation should you get, previous jobs or ones before that job, or or any recommendation from any of your previous jobs? Or what's the,
Those are okay too. Certainly the most recent job has a little bit more reliability, but if you want to do it for previous jobs, you can do that also. Because presumably your skills are going to continue to be useful in jobs after that role. Okay, running out of time. All-star.
Volunteers.
Yeah, LinkedIn recognizes there's no such thing as a perfect profile, but they do say that there is such a thing as a complete profile. And a complete profile has these features. And if you have a photo, you have a location, you have an industry, you've got at least 40 words in your about section, you have a current position, you've got something in education, and you've got at least 5 skills, then LinkedIn is going to call you an all-star, and an all-star has a higher probability of being seen by a recruiter. So work on those also. So summary, things that we learned about the LinkedIn algorithm. Don't use special characters or emojis. The more times you mention that you have a skill in your profile, anywhere in your profile, the higher level of proficiency. Words in the headline itself have the highest value. Locations in the metropolitan areas come up higher than single cities for whatever reason. Skills with an endorsement are the only ones that can be seen by LinkedIn. Your open to work ages. And after about 2 months, LinkedIn doesn't see your hashtag open to work of any sort. So every 2 months, you need to turn off the hashtag open to work and turn it back on again.
Can I ask a question about that? I was told that a few months ago and I've been doing it, but I just turn it off a few minutes and turn it back on. Is that enough or should it be a lapse in time? Okay.
Nope, nope. Turn it off, turn it back on, make sure that it's there. And by the way, all of the information on your LinkedIn profile will age. And every 2 months, you need to change your headline and the first paragraph of your profile. Because, and on the headline, if you think you've got a good set of information, just swap out the order of it. But everything starts to age after a while. That headline, that first paragraph, change just a couple words in it, and it'll refresh the algorithm. You're also talking about recruiters and the human eye. Make sure you've got a good background picture, a friendly headshot that looks welcoming. Have that headline that is going to catch the attention to show value. That your first paragraphs in that about section need to be interesting, unique, and powerful. Make the about section readable. Any paragraph longer than 4 lines deep is going to be difficult. Technical skills come before personal skills. Your top 2 skills on your profile page should be your superpowers and being able, let's go. And some statistics that might be of interest to you. These are mostly dealing with the human eye, but also have some statement about what the algorithm does for you. Any questions since we're out of time?
Question, when is this recording going to be posted?
Matt, you're on mute.
Well, while
Trying
Matt
again.
comes back in, can you go back one slide? Thank you.
I will upload the recording by 5 o'clock today.
Okay, and it's on the DFW site?
It's on the Career USA YouTube channel.
Okay. Yes.
Can somebody put a link for that in the chat, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
And I've just added the deck to the chat feature also.
Hi, first of all, Ruth, thank you for all your insight. I'd like to go back to the visibility part of your presentation and ask a couple kind of if you can get a little bit more granular with respect to if you have your visibility set for who can see your email address as like first or second degree connections. And then farther down in the visibility section, it reads that who can discover you by your phone number or your email address. Does that mean that if you have a first or second connection, they're the only ones that can still discover your email address?
Only the first degree connections will be able to see that. And
Okay.
let's take a look a little bit more carefully in here. When you're in this contact info,
Yep.
a first degree connection will be able to see everything that you've got here.
Right.
If you are a second or a third degree connection, they'll be able to see your profile URL. No surprise, because they're on your profile URL, but that's the only thing they'll be able to see. They won't be able to see a phone number. They won't be able to see an email.
Okay. But if they're a second degree and they if they're a second degree connection and you have it, that second degree connection can see this information, they will see it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Ruth,
said
did
you
you
have
say
the-
you put the presentation in the chat? I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
Oh, let me
Did
try
you
that
hit
again.
send? After you drag it into the box, you have to hit send. There
you
we
go.
go. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, thank you so much for being here and for asking questions that were very insightful and useful. Thank you all for participating.
This is one of
Thank you,
the
Ruth.
first in a
That
long
was
time.
fantastic.
The chat is worth saving.
Thanks.
It was amazing, Ruth. Thank
It
you so
really
much.
was.
Thank you,
Thank
Ruth.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Ruth.
so
Thank you,
much.
Matt.
Thanks, Ruth.
My
And
All right,
pleasure.
just to
everyone else.
wrap things up, thank you for joining us today. If you didn't get it the first time, you can scan these to either donate or join our mailing list at Career USA. And the next session, as we discussed earlier, is Ruth again. Oh wait, that says making LinkedIn work for you.
This next one will be driving recruiters to your LinkedIn profile. So it's a different set of information. This was just talking about basic LinkedIn. It's kind of advanced LinkedIn next week.
Oh,
Gotcha.
same
Okay.
time, same station.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And oh, I'm not in the right place. That's what's going on. Nope, it just went around and around. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Like I
I have a
said,
question, please. Because this is
sure.
clearly my first time connecting. Is it the same link and everything for the Zoom connection, or is it okay? Cool. Thank you.
Every
It is
week,
the same
yes.
link?
Yes.
It is.
Okay, so next week, you said next week, same time, will be the advanced one, right?
Right.
Okay.
And then the
Great.
week after that, you'll see one of the other three LinkedIn people talk about their view of LinkedIn and different things that they think are going to be important. LinkedIn doesn't have rules and regulations. LinkedIn is very secretive about what they do and how they do it. This is my feel for what works based on what I've been seeing. Locke, Terry, and the others have maybe a slightly different view. It's always worth listening to.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, it's been invaluable. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. See you
Anything
next week.
else? All right. Ruth, thank you very much. You're awesome. Appreciate your time and expertise.
There you go.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Take care. Everyone have a good week.
You too.
You too.
You too. Take
Thanks,
care.
you
all.
too.